In this video, we will bring it all together, Object Snap Tracking in 3D architectural example. If you'd like to follow along with this video, please open the file Bringing It Together Object Snap Tracking in 3D architectural.dwg located in the Working Files folder as discussed in the Working with this Dataset video. Let's bring it all together with some real-world examples of changing the UCS and using OSNAPs and 3D OSNAPs. Now before we actually start creating some objects, let's first verify some of our drafting settings. First, let's verify that polar tracking is turned on. Let's also verify that dynamic input is turned on. Let's go ahead and verify our OSNAPs are set to endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, and extension. Make sure those are turned on for the regular 2D OSNAPs. For the 3D OSNAPs, let's verify that vertex, midpoint and edge, and center of face are turned on as well. First, let's draw a roof. Make sure your layer is set to A-roof, and let's go ahead and change our UCS to the upper right part of this location where we want to define an offset for X and Y to begin our roof. We can zoom in here, and even though our UCS is set to the WCS, which is in the lower left corner, notice how it still stays in the lower left corner over here. Go ahead and select your UCS, pick the square blue grip, and then simply move it to this location here using the 3D OSNAP. As you can see, we now have moved our UCS to the plane about which that point is located. Now what we can do is we can draw a rectangle. So let's go ahead and start the rectangle command, and because our UCS, the 0, 0 location, is right here, and let's say we want an offset of 6, 6, 6 in the X, 6 in the Y. This is one way to do it, and we can now simply type in 6, 6, press enter, and notice how our rectangle begins at that XY coordinate. This is not the real XY coordinate, it's simply the coordinate of the UCS that we just moved it to. Now there's actually another way to do this without having to even move the UCS at all. It's called a temporary tracking point. Let's go over an example of this by defining the point from this location here, 6 units this way, 3 units that way. The first thing you do is do a shift right click and select the temporary track point option. Then what you do is acquire. That means do not click. So simply acquire the 3D OSNAP over here, and move your cursor in this location like so, and now we want to type in that value that we want to define a temporary tracking point to. So in this case it's 6 inches. Type 6, press enter. You'll notice the little tracking point that is right there that allows you to now track from it. Do not hover over it as it will automatically disappear if you do so. All you do is move your cursor in the polar tracking direction defined like so, and simply type the value you want. In this case we want 3, press enter, and there is our completed rectangle. Again, with a temporary track point, we want 6 units this way, 3 units that way. Let's go ahead and now extrude this roof. Although we've not talked about any of the 2D profile commands, we will discuss them in future videos. Let's go ahead and click extrude, pick the roof, press enter, and just type in 6 inches for the roof. We now have our completed roof. This temporary tracking point functionality is useful with any commands within AutoCAD. Let's say we want to move this bar perpendicular to this face and 10 feet up. You could do this with a 2-step process. Instead, watch how we can do this with one single move command. Let's go ahead and select the move command, select your object, press enter. I'll do a shift middle click. We're going to snap to the 3D center, and we'll do another shift middle click to get back to this view here. So now what we want to do is define a temporary tracking point from the perpendicular location from the 3D center of this face. Shift right click, temporary track point. Now while you're in the middle of this command, you can still actually select an OSNAP override. Let's do a shift right click, 3D OSNAP, perpendicular. Simply find the face of this solid and left click. Although you can kind of barely see it right there, we have created a temporary tracking point. Now simply move your cursor, tracking straight up here in the positive Z value, and now type in 10, make sure you do the foot mark, and press enter. So with one full sweep, we are now able to simply move that object without having to run the move command twice. Go ahead and change your UCS back to the WCS by clicking the UCS dropdown, and now there's our creation and edits using basic UCS and OSNAPing functionality.